Now, following the racist tweet storm against 4 U.S. Congresswomen, Trump's approval ratings changed. Now, did they go up? Did they go down? Were people very, very angry about these attacks? I mean, then again, he did say that these 4 women who are American citizens should go back to their crime-infested countries and go fix that if they don't like America. They don't like what's going on in the country. So now you would think that Republicans would be like, hey, wait a minute. No, these people are American citizens. We don't agree with them, but they're American citizens, and maybe that is kind of racist. No, what happened, of course, is that his approval rating among Republicans actually went up. Now, this is according to a new Reuters Ipsos survey conducted on Monday and Tuesday. Now, Trump told these lawmakers, again, that they should go back and fix their totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came. And after he did that, his net approval rating among Republicans rose by 5 points to 72%. 72%. So telling these women of color to get out of America made Republicans like him even more. It's almost as if the racism is not a bug, it is a feature. And yes, even the U.S. government guidelines consider telling someone to go back to their own country. That is considered discrimination. So there's no doubt that that is racist. It has a racist history. So now the good news is while there are, of course, more racist Republicans, everyone else seems to be turned off by this. In fact, among independents, about 3 out of 10 say that they now approve of President Trump. So that's about 30% of independent voters. And that actually went down since last week when they last asked this question. His net approval, the percentage who approve minus the percentage who disapprove, dropped by 2 points among Democrats in the polls, which I'm surprised it was even up at all in the polls. And Trump's approval rating overall actually remained unchanged. Now, that is unless, of course, you ask Rasmussen, which again, Rasmussen oversamples conservatives, oversamples Republicans, so it actually went up to 50%. And that, of course, makes sense because more Republicans like this kind of racist rhetoric than does everyone else. And so when you oversample Republicans, that number is going to go up. All right. Now, believe it or not, this is not the worst thing he said. Again, back in 2017, he talked about Charlottesville, right? And he said that there were good people on the Nazi side. That was the same white supremacist rally where they chanted, "The Jews will not replace us," and where a white supremacist took his car and, murdered a protester. Hit a whole bunch of a group of protesters and killed Heather Heyer. So that's what happened there. But there were good people on both sides. There were good people on both sides, he says. Okay, so now, by the way, the person, and I'm not saying his name for a reason, because I don't want to give him more attention, but he's now serving a life sentence of over 400 years in prison. So that happened. Now, in that instance, Trump's net approval rating dropped about 10%, or 10 points. Now, of course, it eventually went back up. So now here's the interesting thing about this, right? So now, this is from Vincent Hutchings, a political science and African American studies professor at the University of Michigan. He said that the reason that this went up is because Republicans do not see this attack as racist. He said, quote, "To Republicans, Trump is simply saying, hey, if you don't like America, you can leave. That is not at all controversial. If you already support Trump, then it's very easy to interpret his comments that way." So it really comes down to interpretation. So when you ignore all the history and the context of people saying, get out of America if you don't like it, which is, of course, usually aimed at people who are Latino descent or Latina or African American, etc., etc. Heck, even Native Americans, they have told, go back to your own country. Well, I would, but you kind of stole it from us. Um, they think, oh no, that's not racist. I mean, it's amazing the mind bendingness that comes from being a Trump supporter when he says stuff like this. Oh, what are you talking about? That's this historically racist attack has nothing to do with racism. He's just saying if you hate America, well, then you should leave. Well, nobody here hates America. The whole purpose here behind that saying is to tell people that you do not belong here. You are not an American if you were brown, black, or others, right? So, look, the irony of criticizing these women for speaking out about the actual problems in America, for example, the concentration camps at the border that right now the government is running, while having a platform of Make America Great Again, is hypocrisy at its finest. I guess what Make America Great actually means is make it great again for white people, which, newsflash, it actually is kind of good, been pretty great, I should say, for white people compared at least to what minorities go through. Now, of course, you have such high concentrations of wealth and privilege. So now among, very, very wealthy white people, and such a disdain for the poor that now poor people are also starting to get a taste, poor white people, I should say, are starting to get a taste of what black people have experienced all along. And it's funny because now that they're upset, right? Now, there's one more thing here that Hutchings pointed out. He said that by criticizing the liberal members of the House, Trump is, quote, doing exactly what Republicans want him to do. He's taking on groups that they oppose. So here we go. This is once again basically rah, rah, go team. Oh, I don't like liberal Republican, or I don't like liberal Democrats. I don't like these progressives. Well, why? Turns out that you kind of like their policies, at least until you know that they are connected to Democratic Party. Before then, you ask people about, okay, let me get to a better example here. So in Kentucky, back during the Obamacare fight, right? So now Obamacare, you ask a Republican down in Kentucky, which at that point they were covered by something called Connect, right? So that's Kentucky's version of Obamacare, and that's the exchanges, right? So they ask people, well, do you like Connect? Yeah, well, we love it. Yeah, it's great. We're able to get more affordable health care or health insurance. But then you ask them about Obamacare. Oh, I hate Obamacare. Socialism. Despise it. That's because you connect it to a party. Now, the same thing happened with Medicare for All. You had over half of all Republicans that were in favor of a government-sponsored single-payer healthcare system. And then what happened is that they, of course, since it's a Democratic proposal brought forward by Senator Bernie Sanders, and championed by people like AOC, Rashida Tlaib, the Justice Democrats, etc. So now they started lying about it on Fox News. They started talking about it. They drove that Republican support down to just 25%. Now, it still is supported by a majority of the country, but you tie party politics into it, then support for that same policy, despite it being a great policy, drops. And that's because, of course, all they're looking at is, do you have a D or an R next to your name? If you're a D, you must be evil. If you're an R, you must be great and looking out for America. That's how simple, unfortunately, a lot of Americans are. That's their simplistic thought process when it comes to politics. And so that's like a deeper conversation to try to figure out how to change that, how to, navigate that dynamic. But again, the final irony is that these four women are actually looking out for, yes, even Trump supporters. Because among these policies that they're pushing, Medicare for all, free college, a living wage, this would impact and help a lot of Trump supporters as well, the poorer ones at least. And so, look, Trump supporters, along with everyone else, are being crushed by corporations. Insurance companies are charging insane premiums, copays, deductibles. They're denying care. They're literal death panels. You have jobs out there that, are not enough for people to survive. pensions that have disappeared. What's a pension, right? A lot of us millennials don't even know what a pension is like. We don't know. We'll never see one. Hell, most of us will never even retire. But don't worry, Fox News is out there saying, oh, well, you don't need to retire anyway. You should consider working till you drop a blessing. That is something that someone actually literally said, right? Not only that, but of course we've got climate change that's threatening a lot of people, whether or not they believe it. It is here, and it will affect them. It will impact them because it always impacts the poor first. These women want to help with this, while Trump just wants to exploit them. Their fear, their innate bias against people who are different, against people of other races, who speak maybe a different language, or who just look different. He is using that for his own ego, and of course, at the end of the day, in true Trump fashion, to make an extra buck. The same as every single scam artist that has ever lived. And unfortunately, Republican voters, as usual, will continue to not only fall for it, but enthusiastically support it. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.